Well, 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 well. Casual third stream of the day, huh? Look at this. We got a PTR update. Whoop, whoop, whoop. I have no idea what this is about. I closed my War 3 Champions after finishing War 3 Champions Finals. That's better. And then I saw my BattleNet popping up. Boop. PTR is receiving an update. And then I saw the same on the Discord. And here we are. In hour 12 of today's stream. Yes. Cool. All right, I got the update. We don't have blue post yet, but two things we can check is, of course, Huntress heavy armor. What is up with the elves? Can they celebrate? Or are they spending their weekend in tears? If you guys could F5 the forums and link the blue post when it's there, that would be quite amazing. I would love that. Thank you. You need to support me a little bit. I am on my very last lag. And I'm loading it. Let's go, let's go, let's go. This will be a short stream, by the way.
Your building is complete. Your building is complete. Your building is complete.
What do we got?
Your building is complete. Upgrade finished. Your building.
According to the text, it's still the same. But are the values different?
Your building is complete.
So the update. Oh, you don't see anything because it's not the PTR. There we go. Okay, upgrade says gives the hunters the ability to strike additional units with the bouncing glaives and changes their armor to heavy. Is this the same value? 175 lumber. Did they maybe make it more expensive? Huntress. I don't know Huntress values at all. So I have to check anyway.
Take Bezos's money.
Yo, Jesus. Thank you, Tanakot. Taco Cat. Tanakot. Yeah. See, that's how done I am. Okay, so it's 25 lumber cheaper and 25 more expensive and 25 gold more expensive. Huntress values.
Goddess, light my path.
16, 18. It's the same.
I am sworn to avenge.
Range is the same. HP is the same. Armor is the same. Okay. Let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It seemed if I didn't miscount, lumber is also the same. Let me take a look at the in-game clock then. Should give us lumber at 52. Yep, lumber is also the same. Seems 8? No, I think it's 7. I'm pretty sure it's 7. Okay, let's take a look again. We go at 15. And then it should be 22. Yep. Huntress. Oh, wait. Huntress Hall is 100 lumber. Yep, that's the same as pre-PTR. Good catch, good catch. Nature's Blessing 150, 200. $150, $200. Okay, so they reverted that. Yeah, so the lumber cost reduction is reduced. That is helpful. I still think it's the wrong way to tackle this, but they will have their reasons. And I... Yo, Kova! Muddy Premium Unisex Hoodie! Let's go, dude! Thank you. So the lumber costs are back to standard for Hunter's Hall and Nature's Blessing. Okay, we need to check Chimera speed.
Upgrade.
I mean, we don't see the value, unfortunately. But we'll
Your
feel
building
it
is complete.
immediately. We should feel it. I think it's slower than the previous PTR. But it's not the original Chimera. Is it slower than the previous PTR? It could be the same. It could be the same. It could be the same. It feels slower though than I remember, but that doesn't mean anything because Moonstone time.
Your building is
It was
complete.
35, right? Last 30 seconds. Okay, that's nerfed as well. It's 7.5, I think. Okay. Oh yeah, I don't have anti-air low.
I stand ready.
Glaives still have the 10. Bonus damage. Yeah, Moonstone back to 30. So Huntress upgrade more expensive. Lumber cost requirements reverted. Oh, they closed the previous PTR post 2 minutes ago. So they're in the process of posting the new one. Okay, we tested Wisp. We're not sure. Could be 7.5. 428 had a lumber tick. Will be done at... Oh, at 43. It's close, man. It could be both still. 7.5 seems not untrue though. Press X? We already saw it.
Speak your mind. Research finished.
The same. Did they do anything to fairy dragons? Then we have it all, right?
Your
If we check
building
fairy
is
dragons.
complete.
I mean, I don't know if they did anything. It was just a phase shift, right? Yeah, you can cancel both. So that's the Night Elf. Make Potom? Why?
Warriors of the night.
Trust in my command.
That's all the same, no? I think it's all the same. MG said what? Oh, Nohiro Masuda! Let's go! We got notes! We got notes, we got notes, we got notes. Alrighty. Ah, Savior. Savior! Alright, it is Friday night. And we got another PTR update. Holy moly. Did not expect that. The second update of the week. The discussion is about Huntress heavy armor, so we'll see if there's any challenges and changes to that and what else they've been cooking. I am not spoiled. We're going through this together now for the very first time. Version 2.02. While this is a work in progress and subject to change, we now plan to go live with 2.02 on April 15. That is 1 week before the DWCC Grand Final with $21,000 prize money. And hopefully, like, either they play on the new patch for $21,000 and we have a lot of testing ground. This might take KK some time to update, though. It was in the past with Netty, so DWCC, you better prepare. It would be nice if one could wait for pro tournaments, but it's 16 players over how many thousand player base we have. And that is somewhat understandable. But surely for that tournament, an issue. It's right after Grubby's tournament. Our biggest thanks to everyone who participated in the PTR and provided feedback for any tournament currently underway. It will be up to you to decide which version you will continue your tournament on. Huh? How are people deciding this? There's no choice to select the patch, is there? If they make it a choice somehow, play on old patch? Interesting. Item. Slow orb version changed to be based off of Shadow Strike instead of slow. This may change how custom abilities previously copied from the item function. Ah, okay. So to create a new item, this is a good way of doing it. You copy an item and change the value. Vampiric Potion removed from the pool. Okay, interesting. Rune of Lesser Healing removed from the pool. I really like experimenting with new drops. Sad that they couldn't find a way to implement them. I think for the Lesser Healing, it's really good. For Vampiric Potion, I would have loved to see an experiment with like tier 3 drop to have something cool and new for everyone. But on tier 2, it was way too strong. I 100% agree. It was an experiment. Everything else stays the same. That includes the aura changes. Human. Reverted Siphon mana range. Orb of Slow proc chance reduced to 2510. Orb of Slow debuff is no longer dispellable or stealable. Orb of Slow debuff now stacks with Sorcerer's Slow. Holy Light cooldown increased from 5.55 to 5.5, so a middle ground. Note that the HUD does not support decimal cooldowns and will display the cooldown as 6. Flame Strike mana cost reduced by 10. Deflection chance reduced by 5%. Let's go. Okay. So Banish is still nerfed on 4 to 0 seconds. I wonder if this is just the application range and not the entire range. Orb of Slow will be interesting, especially when it stacks. It makes it a lot stronger, especially if it's not dispellable. And I think this doesn't make a big difference. 10% on heroes is rather luck dependent, for sure. There must have been a revert on one of the Blood Mage changes, I think. It was too much nerf. So this Banish is so frustrating. I like that this is the change they keep it. They keep. And also that they find a middle ground here, because Holy Light spam can also be frustrating, but I also realize it's very necessary. Defend, you can still argue that it's a buff by how fast you research it. That they tackle the deflection chance is huge, because if a shot is deflected, the damage is nullified. Not just reduced, nullified. If I understand this correct.
I really like that they are going for some disruptive changes, and are clearly listening to main community members.
Orb of lightning damage against summons. Okay. Increase, which is basically a decrease from the previous buff. It was 300, right? Now it's 200. Windrider movement speed reduced. That helps against gargoyles, which I previously criticized. They keep the XP though. Sentry Ward matches the item. I still see Wyvern and Stasis Traps as a problem. And wards in general as a problem. They will be spammed quite a bit. Night Elf reverted the Hunter's Hall lumber cost and reverted the Nature's Blessing lumber cost. Leads me to believe that they don't do much with the new Gather raid. Reverted Moonstone duration. Reverted Mountain Giant food cost. The upgrade for the Huntress that keeps them... Oh! That makes them heavy armor is more expensive by 25 lumber and 25 gold. And 25-second increase on the research time. Very curious if that's enough. It is a heavy nerf to the buff. Huntress movement speed reduced by 10. Chimera movement speed, yeah, middle ground, right? So when we tested it, I was right. I have to check if this makes any difference and it hits breaking points. Undead reverted the dagger cost. Didn't everybody like this? I mean, Undead got shafted quite a bit by the other races' buffs. So not nerfing it here makes sense. Cripple mana cost reduced by 10. Not bad. Frostworm air attack has an area of effect. Oh. Okay. Omega Rip Gyros, I think. Frostworm ground attack splash damage will no longer affect air units, so you have to select and target. Frostworm ground and air attack increased by 75. Undeads have a tool. Undeads have a tool. 75 range is sick. Sick. Do you remember how much that helped headhunters back in the day? This is probably, outside of a new ability, the best thing that could have happened to Frostworms. Disease Cloud spawned on Abomination. Death no longer have collision. Okay, I think that's good. And that's it. Oi, oi, oi. Sentry Ward is increased from the decrease with lesser HP. Okay, that is all the same, more or less. How does this stand in the balance now? Orb could be good now. They fixed the bugs. You know me, I have an anti-bias for movement speed reduction or movement speed increase. It's 10 and 5 seconds. Could be huge. Could be huge. Could be nothing. I have a hard time imagining this. Is by the way a nerf against undead, right? Flame Strike I think is reasonable. Siphon mana area of effect reduced. Oh, this is awesome. Okay, so you can still cast it from 600 range as it is now, but it is 100 range less to run away from it. So if Siphon mana is targeted on you and you leave, that has been nerfed. Banish is still pretty much nerfed. Holy Light is nerfed a bit. Humans are not having a good time. Humans are not gonna have a good time. I feel like, though, this feels reasonable as an orb replacement experiment, at least. This is reasonable. This is reasonable. This is reasonable. This is reasonable. Like, the pieces are reasonable, but is the sum still reasonable? Having a very hard time saying yes. For humans get F'd this patch. Big time. Everywhere. Almost. It's 5-second timing and it's cheaper. So you can start it earlier. This can be very disruptive. But then we have to see the values if it's still that strong. It's a buff nerf for sure. This we have to see in a game. How the timings play out and how the effect plays out. Okay, this I'm fine with that. It's a little bit of a buff to an already strong orb. Mirror image could still be too strong, but I'm not complaining about that. I think the 5 seconds are fine. This I still have a problem with. That they give way less XP now. And Venom Spears is reasonable. With movement speed, you always have to see if there's new interactions now. Stasis Trap will be a problem, I think. They will be spammed into oblivion. IMO. I think Tauren might have a reasonable spot with the cost and the time. Orb is justified. Keeper is justified. Treant is justified. This is unchanged. With the reverted nerves, I still think this is the wrong way to address the existing Night Elf Lumber problems, as it's very hard to predict what's gonna happen. If they're adamant on it and are willing to do this way, this had to go. So it's alright, I think. Then we have to see. This is probably not as impactful as we initially thought, but it's probably more impactful than a lot of people think, would be my guess. Heavy nerfs to the timing will change a lot. I like that this is addressed. I like that they realized it was surely a timing thing, but the usage of Moonglaves on tier 2 was also a problem. This could still lead to problems that we have to observe. I hate already Huntress attacking a Great Hall. We've seen it in the PTR matches. We've seen it in the Keeper patch. This, as long as Moonglaves are hitting buildings and it spreads to repairing workers, this will be toxic. IMO. But they tackle movement speed, which was a necessity, I think, and this is a big one. Ultra Vision is totally justified. Chimera movement speed is interesting, especially with Worms also getting a big buff. Vorpal Blades, we'll see. Oh! Oh, shit! Okay, wait. One of negation, yeah, this can be nice. This can be real nice now, IMO. It was just the cost and the charges reduction, but the healing is still increased. So the ritual dagger just heals more? Interesting. Carrion Swarm still buffed, similar to Flame Strike, I guess. Tower shall help against, but do we now need help against humans? I don't think so. Burrow could be cool at its 15 seconds. Heals more and faster as a result. Oh yeah. Oh, ghouls will still be so oppressive, man, I think. Gargoyles are 350 as before. What is with Gargoyles and Wyvern? They can catch up. It's reduced by 10. This is reduced by 25. So net bonus is still going to the Wyvern against Gargoyles. This Gargoyle movement speed plus the Nova range reduction, still heavy nerfs to Undead versus Orc. But then you have to see if Worms now maybe somehow find a place. Anti-magic shield is still pretty extreme. Cripple is cool. And this will be very interesting. Rip Hippos in FFA. Or not? I don't know how big this AoE is. I have to see this in live action against clumped up air units, but it feels like Rip Hippos. I think Dark Ranger Lifetime is super cool. We've seen some interactions in PTR. Rain of Fire, not so much, but it's, I guess, another nerf versus human, ideally. Not ideally, the way it played out before. Yeah, I still don't know where this is heading. I think this is still very chaotic. It has some directions here and there. Blood Mage Banish is a big nerf, and I don't know if all of the other nerfs are justified. I have to think about it more. But this is first impression. So, chat, what do you think? Is it good? Is it bad? The third update, it's getting fewer and fewer changes. Are we on the finish line here? Or what do you think? Put it in the comments. Yo, chat, what do you think? You cannot spam stasis trap if they are in range. If you spam 10 stasis traps within range of each other, one will go off and then the others detonate as well. Well, the thing is, like, to make sure that one goes off is enough, right? It's mostly a nerf to Pella Rifle. Archmage players not affected. But the Banish nerf is crazy versus Night Elf. It's all they do right now. Justified, by the way. Justified. For the initial, for Banish. Frostworm does very little damage outside of 25 range. It drops to 20%. It's still a lot of damage though, right? They do... What is that then? 30 damage a hit? I think I'm positive on the Frostworm nerf. The range is insane. No, sorry, let me rephrase. The fact that after all these years the Frostworm range gets increased is something I would never expect, and I'm very surprised by that. To word that differently. Almost good. Petty Rife is dead even before the patch arrives. Yeah, does that change anything in Undead versus Pala Rifle? It's actually worse. What am I doing here? Am I looking for... Am I trying to justify buffs for human for Pala Rifle versus Undead? Oh my god, dude, it's been a long day. Overall, it's harder to get these hunters, and it's harder to get them to heavy armor. I see the direction. How can Pala Rifle be dead with these changes? It's a 0.5 longer heal cooldown. Banish, dude. Banish. Banish, 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 banish. Banish will have such an impact. Yeah, I still hate the Wisp Lumber Gather rate. So I have to... Oopsala. Help Soul real quick. They don't use Banish that often. I have a very different perception than you. Bladestorm, what? Sorry, you're a bit extreme, in my opinion. Mr. Orcas, you want to come on, huh? Let's go, let's go, let's go. Save Orcas. I can call whenever you're ready. One of the most knowledgeable people in the entire scene. We haven't had him on for this patch cycle, but he has contributed a lot. Last time on Monday, I was way too tired, but now we power through. Mr. Orcas, what a pleasure. On Monday, I was too tired to have you on, but now you're finally here. What's up, dude?
Hi, Neo. Good to hear you as well. Hi, chat. Hi, everyone.
You're a legend that is now even practicing with Starbuck for his big match versus Happy, I heard.
Well, we made a strategy on springtime, but it didn't work out at the end, so
It was
it's okay.
it was the closest game though, almost. So I think it had an effect. But
Yeah, we'll see. Maybe we talk again with Starbuck. Maybe we'll come up with something else for the show match
for sure, for
if he
sure.
wants to.
Yeah. All right, you have opinion on the patch. Feel free. The stage is yours, dude.
Okay, this is my own opinion. I guess it's independent. I'm not influenced by anybody. It doesn't have to be taken into account because, okay. So I don't know. I like the items right now, portion. I think the sentry ward back to 1200 was a very good touch. 1200, I mean. 1000 was too little. And the rest of the changes look good to me. Seriously.
So you're not of my opinion that the movement speed auras should not be touched.
I don't know. I don't have any strong opinion
Okay.
in any matter. I know that Dondolari reviewed a few pro players and they said that these two items are a little bit lackluster in the end game. So that's why the suggestion is bring them back to from 5 to 7.5. So that was the feedback from pro players.
Okay, then I shall remain silent.
Yeah, no, sure. I hope you can have a conversation.
For sure.
Orb of Fire, not so sure how strong it is. Maybe for heroes, 5 seconds is a bit too much. That's what I know from Don Dolores notes. I don't know. The cost is 325. Should be cheaper than other orbs that cost 375? Well, for undead and for orc, I don't know. That's something still to.
Especially when it stacks with regular slow, right? This could be really strong.
Yes, and it affects magic immune units, which I know Infi liked a lot, and it's also something that would bring happiness to human players. So,
I think it's kind of nice because it brings a unique effect and it's not just slow. So it adds a new interaction at least.
Yeah, I like it. I think after this third already iteration, it gets very close to something that is very cool, applicable, and we can play with it for a while. Human changes. We still don't know the changes to flying machines and gargoyles, why the movement speed was reduced. So I know some people question this change, and yeah, maybe it should not be there, or at least it would be nice to hear what's the reasoning. So these two changes are, I would say, questionable. My personal opinion, Holy Light could stay 5 seconds. Just personal. If we want to nerf Pala rifle, maybe the attack upgrade for rifles can be 25 lumber more costlier. It's not gonna stop it, but I don't know. A little lumber cost on top of what it has, but keep the paladin as it is, because those seconds are so important.
Yeah, and also the human upgrades are, if I'm not mistaken, by far the cheapest.
Yes, the attack upgrades are very cheap in lumber and in gold. I think they should be cheap in gold because they are sort of cross ways. I mean, some of them, for some units you need to make one range attack and one melee armor, sort of. I'm fine with other human changes. Maybe heal ranges 350 is a bit too much. Maybe 300 is better. I don't know. It was the numbers from Remo Demo's notes, and Remo Demo just throw down the numbers without thinking about the implications. So I don't know how much the priest should be. Maybe 300 is a more gradual change. And the rest looks great for humans.
Well, not so
my
great for
sense.
humans, looks great for everyone else, I think. I'm curious about your opinion on defend, because it's 4 changes at once, and some are good for the ability and some are bad for the ability because it's cheaper and faster to research, but it's weaker. So I would love to know what you think.
Okay, yeah, I can say a few words. These come from Don Delaris in the document that we sent. So the idea was that humans actually sometimes reluctant to research the upgrade because it takes too much time, 45 seconds, and they rather make 2 other footmen in this period instead of defend upgrade. And 42 does that sometimes. So in order to nudge human players to use this upgrade, and you still have to use it, right? You need to click defend and undefend and so on. We'd rather make it a little bit shorter in time and cheaper in lumber and gold. So now they can use it more often and go for it more often. But I think it's fair to reduce the
Okay, let's see if that opens
deflection,
up.
whatever.
Yeah.
Chance by 5% as well.
Okay, let's see if that opens up new timings, because it's also cheaper, of
We'll
course.
see.
You can start the upgrade faster, plus the research time is shorter. Leon used it yesterday on the PTR tournament. That was pretty impressive. But yeah, the timings in general are all over the place, so it's hard to say.
True, some changes are really hard to comment on. For Orc, I don't know what to say about Wind Riders.
Me too, brother. Me too.
Oh, my biggest feedback for Blizzard would be, you know which one? They have lawyers, right?
Yeah.
And the game has like 30 years old. Can we get back the true names like Wyvern back? I think the time is over. We can get back the Wyvern, the Ballista, the Catapult names.
Would be great, man. Would be great.
Editor. Would be one of the best changes to see. Can't say much about Orc. I would say mirror image. It is safe to make it 3 to 6 seconds, maybe 1 extra second. It won't matter in 1v1, but in other matchups like FFA, it matters a lot, I've heard.
Yes.
Yeah, Orc, let's skip.
Okay.
Yeah, Orc, let's skip. I hope Resistance Kim will help Torrents, and actually it will help to have 1-2 Torrents on the field, have them impactful. I don't think massing Torrents will be the thing.
Yeah, I would agree.
Which is okay.
For them, for that, they're too expensive now, I think.
Yeah, maybe that even a cost increase is not needed until we see them on the field, because tier 3 changes are not that sensible to the game. My feeling. Night Elf. I truly think, sorry, Night Elf players, I went to the Night Elf of Discord. We discussed it there. 8 to 7 seconds is too much because they get plus 100 lumber, even 120 till when they get to tier 2, and then every minute they get plus 30 lumber from this buff. So plus 30 lumber, their wisps gather more every minute. That's a lot. So I think 7.5 seconds would be fair and more gradual change to try. Maybe next patch we see how else we can help Night Elves, but 7.5 I think for lumber is truly enough. Yeah, that's my opinion. Only mine. And for the Huntress armor upgrade, I'm not sure. I feel it's awkwardly done a little bit, that in a Moonglaive upgrade you have this switch of the armor. So if you're starting to counter Huntresses with piercing damage, suddenly there is a switch sort of countering all the counters, and other enemies should build, I don't know what, casters?
Yeah, it's a little similar to when footmen get defend, right? Because you can't
But
really attack them with piercing anymore, but you have to go for spells most of the time.
maybe, but I don't know. I think if you make it like Elun's Grace, make a second upgrade, not the armor, but the second upgrade, Elun's Grace for Huntresses. You can set a cost for it. You can even set how much reduction in piercing and maybe a little bit in spell damage they have. At the beginning, it could be small, and then maybe with the next patch we can increase and so on to make it viable. But at start, I don't know. I think Elun's Grace would be a better separate upgrade in the Huntress Hall.
But you
And we
said
have a
that's a tier 3 upgrade then, right? In your mind.
Debatable. I mean, Night Elves don't want it to be tier 3.
Of course.
It could be too strong on tier 2.
Yeah, I think so too. Especially with spell damage reduction as well. That would be too strong on tier 2, is my opinion.
But game design wise, we have a nice icon for it. It could be a separate upgrade, right? And it's already behind, up to developers. Lock it behind tier 3, maybe behind something else. What else it could be new? What else you can lock in behind this upgrade?
The requirement for the original Moonglaves upgrade could be in, and of course cost is a big thing.
Yeah, or Moonglaves. Maybe you have to research Moonglaves first. That's interesting. I didn't think about it. I thought maybe some shop or Ancient of the Wind, but Moonglaves would be interesting. Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, it feels like though they're very keen on keeping the change that way because they just changed the research time and the research cost. They are not getting more experimental, and I think for them implementing like the visual change is a pretty good sign that they really want to keep it.
Well, I see they can code new things quite well and quite fast. We get a PTR in 3-4 days, the
Yep.
next iteration. So if they read Reddit posts, I think more people are like Dalen's Grace idea. It actually targets only piercing damage and a little bit of spell damage. And it's of Night Elf flavor, and it's sort of very logical to me.
Yeah, I did my PowerPoint presentation and I put Elun's Grace there, and the same second you texted me as well, so I'm not against it. But I would think it's very unrealistic that they're changing it now. But I wouldn't hate it, I think.
Yeah, and the best part of it, you can tune it, the percentages of that. When you change just to heavy armor, you cannot tune how much piercing damage the Huntresses receive. This one you can tune with next iteration or next patch or something.
That's true.
Lots of flexibility. And finally, on that, sorry for not for staying too long. Wand of Negation. Again, my personal opinion, this item we tried for a year or something. I don't think it fits Undead well. I understand the idea to give Dispel at tier 2, but I talked to some Undead players like Sheik. We don't hear Undead players that much. So they prefer actually maybe Wand of Negation removed and have one scroll of healing in their shop back. One, not
yeah,
two.
of course. Especially for FFA players. Yeah.
Yeah, why the reason? Because Undead will still try to contest the scroll of healing at the shop on the map, right? To give it to the enemy. And on the other hand, they have something in their shop to use in case they need to defend or something like this. And especially for other games like FFA, yes, this was a true power for Undeads. Now they don't have it. And for the Wand of Negation, if we keep it, I think it would rather stay lower cost. maybe 100 gold, 2 AoE dispels that they had, or maybe 100 gold, 3 charged ones. So they can use it once in the urgent case. But personally, I would remove it and replace with a scroll of healing.
There was a Reddit thread, you probably saw it, that said it's not the greatest game design because the dispel is coming from an item and you can't counter. And you can't take it away. Like, there's nothing you can do when your opponent has this item, while when a unit has the spell, you can target it.
True, and even Grabby said on his stream, I mean, once a player knows that such item available to undeads, you already don't go for, I don't know, Firelord push or some even Keeper Hunts push is over. In the mirror, you cannot go Crypt Lord because you have that dispel, right? There was AoE dispel.
Yep.
What else? Even Farseer is weak with its wolves because they get dispelled. So it sort of ruins lots of strategies and doesn't give a lot. Enemies don't play strategies because they know the dispel exists, and that's why Undead doesn't even buy the dispel. It might be quite strong.
Yeah, I like the change from AoE to single target. It's pretty good against Hex that way. And Entangle, which is nice quality of life for Undead. I do see all the other arguments as well, though.
True. So for Undead, my personal feeling, Frost of Nova can be changed maybe to 750 to start. Just a little tiny. Ritual Dagger. That's a big topic.
Yes.
The change that we had in the document was actually coming from pro players and is liked by many other pro players who are playing against Undead. They think it's a fair change to switch from 2 daggers to 1, because even today Starbuck surrounded a ghoul and he couldn't finish the ghoul because it got denied by a second ritual dagger. It got denied. So it's a big denial tool. So that's why the proposal to reduce it to only 1 that costs 75. Well, you can buff it to have 225 healing, like human crawl of healing, but just give only 1 charge to undeads, to use it only for healing, not for the denial, because denial in the early games it's too rewarding or too hurtful.
I really like the change as well. I'm not a huge fan of the mass ghoul play, you might know. And Ritual Dagger is basically the best thing for ghouls you can have, right? So I like that nerf. It felt elegant as a nerf to ghouls without touching ghouls. Now it's even stronger and it's a buff to ghouls. I feel like they wanted to take a nerf away from the undead side, and that was the thing that they thought they can take away. I am with you. If they reduce it again back to 1, I'm totally fine with it.
Well, I think a Ritual Dagger changes a nice nerf to undeads. Then they can be less hurtful on Nova, 750. And what else? Maybe no need to slow down gargoyles. Yeah. For Carrion Swarm, 135 is a bit too much. I think 130 is the number to go, because this is what Warden has, Tauren Chieftain has. So 130 is enough to, I don't know, kill 2 peons in 2 swarms. So it's over every necessary threshold. My just numberish opinion on numbers. The rest, Frost Worms, okay, I'm excited for the change. If it's too strong, I'm no expert there. And for Cripple, to me, yes, it's a nice change, but it doesn't help Necromancers. So if you want to see Necromancers, I think the change that we proposed in the document, make the first raise that 5 mana cheaper, but the build time for the Necromancers, which is 24 seconds, is too short. Make it larger, like 26 or even 28. So you can build 1 or 2 Necromancers and they are more impactful because their first spell is cheaper. But was our train of thoughts.
Okay, that sounds reasonable. I, of course, didn't do the math. That was all you guys, but sounds good on first view. Is there anything that you see is something that cannot go live at the big risk that will haunt us for weeks if this goes live?
With Plumber Gathering, I think should be 7.5. That's, I'm sure. And yeah, Moonglaves, there should be one more iteration. I think this is not enough.
Okay.
I mean, armor type.
Yeah.
Something. Yeah, so the rest, again, they should listen to more voices. Maybe they should listen to less loud voices.
No idea what you are talking about.
Yeah, because usually the less loud voices have, I don't know, maybe less bias. And just want to say thanks to developers team for the creeps change from the map making community. Nobody is talking about the last big list. Nobody is
Witty
looking
is
at
talking
it, but
about the skink a lot.
Oh. Well, the skink, it was OP. If you make it, use what? The humans have their, what it's called, the sheep in their shop.
Mechanical critter.
Mechanical creeper. If you make it the skink to be mechanical, it's like the best scout you can have. It's very speedy.
I like it.
Yeah.
All
so
right,
it's a nerf to humans.
It
Sorry.
is.
Yeah,
It is.
that's all. Thank you.
Another
Thank you,
nerf to humans. Unbelievable. Maybe one last thought. How do you think the balance is going to play out with these changes? I know it's hard, but I want to ask you one last hard question. Is one race going to be OP? Is one race going to be too weak?
I think Night Elves will have a easier breathing in all the matchups. They might be stronger against Orc. Undeads, I think they should get some love, but I don't know how. So I hope Undeads will get more love. And yeah, my suggestion is to return one iteration of heal scroll in their shop. They will be thankful. And lots of cool things to try. That's the best part of this PTR. And I think I would not be able to make such a good patch. I think I would, kudos to who is doing this. Very good ideas, very good third iteration. And they are making better than I would do and some of us would do for sure.
That is guaranteed. Thank you, Save Orcas, for your insights. You're always a welcome guest here, and great food for thought. Thank you.
Yeah, bye-bye.
Mr. Orcas, everybody. One of the brightest minds that we have in Warcraft. I will see if Dondo has something to say. I saw Dondo was in the call, in the chat. Mr. Dondo, I saw you in the chat. Wanna hop on, or rather nay? Put me in, coach. Okay, now I now I wrote all of this, but you're obviously listening. Then I will change the text. Yo! 2 calls a week, Dondo. Did we ever have that before?
Yeah, I think so. Actually, one time in the earlier PTR, once upon a time. But yeah, we did. I'm trying to actually. I just like I've been busy all day and like just went to my computer for like the night. I was like, oh, there's something new going on. So I'm just read everything basically, and I heard Save Orcas from like halfway, I think. So I got something in there as well.
Alrighty. So as always, Dondo, make everything miserable.
No, I mean, I do think like in general, a lot of stuff here is probably in the right direction. compared to like other builds. It's still somewhat like hard for me to always like read what the intention is. There's still like some stuff going in opposite directions. Like, yeah, and some things are maybe like a bit overreactive as well. I'm not sure, like, but there's like things I like. I like stuff that you can see that they're now more willing to generally do half point measures, right? Instead of, we used to be like, you can't do anything, you can't never like change a second to half a second, stuff like that. They're actually more open to change. I think that's super cool.
It was so horrible in like 1.29 territory where, let's say a spell is scaling from 1, 2 to 3, and it had to be 15, 30, 45, because that just makes the most sense, right? And they moved away from that. And yeah, I also want to compliment that. Don't make beautiful numbers in the game, make the balance right. And this is what this team, compared to the previous team, is doing a lot better. Agree.
Yeah, not everything can work linearly, etc. Right? Like some things can't like have a twice damage per level, etc.
Yeah.
Like something just scales differently, so stuff like that. But yeah, overall, I mean, Sevorkas went through a lot of stuff. Yeah, I wonder. There's like certain things I wonder about, and in general. So should we just like do what I think is still like a huge question mark problematic, or do you want to do like the full list?
I'm following your lead. I mean, I talked about the full list. Save Orcas went to points that were important to him. Do as you will. It's your platform, Dondo.
Okay, then I try to like do some of the important stuff in like every like main component. Yep. I mean, items. I think back to
wait. Are you on the Masters balance list, or are you on?
I'm on the Masters, because I'm on the Masters, if that's fine. Because like I think it's hard to read the changes without like the whole sum of stuff. I think the Center War change is actually pretty smart. That is back to 1200. 1000 still seems a lot, and the item is like, of course, situationally very strong because how it works. But you kind of wanted to emphasize Witch Doctor usage, and 1000 was actually like, if you tested in game, it was surprisingly small, I would say. So I think that's fine. I think it's good back to 1200. Try that. Doesn't hurt. It's a bit sad that we lose like the 2 new items, but they didn't work as they were intended for now. I think the issue with my Maverick Potion is that it just was situationally way too strong and helped certain heroes much more than others. And I think the Rune of Lesser Healing is probably because of the point me and some other people made, that like quite often it would just be useless, and sometimes it would be very strong, right? So you have like this weird dichotomy where if you creep with the Water Elemental or Spirit Wolves, it gives you nothing because your units are not taking damage.
Yeah,
it gives you 75 health on a Water Elemental, I guess, right?
Okay, I'm playing Advocatus Diaboli, right? Towards the Vampiric Potion, isn't every item drop stronger for some heroes and less strong for the others? Like,
yeah, for sure. But I think like it's like the same argument we probably had with Lightning Shield back in the day, in that like in certain heroes in certain situations it becomes like extremely strong, and otherwise it becomes very very weak, right?
Yeah.
So I'm not saying like, of course, Slippers for DH versus Mantle is a very like bad scaling for that hero, but it's not as useless always as people might think. It's like 3 damage, slightly higher attack speed, versus maybe it's quite a bit more mana if you use Immolation, right? Like things can at least have some compensation, but this feels like if you have a DH running into a like Northern Isles, I think it's one of the maps you can get, right? Into the human expo attempt with this like stats, sounds super strong.
Yeah.
But if you get it on like, I don't know, like a Farseer, what does it do ever, basically?
It helps a bit. But yeah, I am also sad to see it go. Maybe as a tier 3 would have been good, but it's the problem with items that they oftentimes benefit DH and Blade Master because of the way these heroes work and that they are the damage dealers. While it's hard to find drops that would benefit like strength and intelligence heroes at that stage of the game.
And I think it's also like difficult when things are share of something. So like it's 50% lifesteal, and if your hero is getting very strong, it's basically like it turns the army into nothing in some space.
This is
like that's like a general problem, I think, or not a problem, but it's like a general complexity with how heroes work, because you have armies and heroes.
And I think they tackled this really well with the spikes upgrade for orcs, that it had like a baseline damage introduction plus %. So maybe this concept in the future, when they think about items again, could be used. But then I don't know how hard that is to implement. But yeah, maybe food for thought.
I'm not sure either. I would probably guess like 100% or something in Dota that resembles that kind of concept. So maybe,
Yes.
but I don't know all the items from how they are there. But yeah.
And then Advocatus for the healing rune. Not that I'm personally of that opinion, but it could make that argument that if you want to buff creeping for non-summoners heroes, that would be the way to go.
I think the problem there would be that you don't. That kind of item is only good then if you know it's gonna drop, right? So it's one of 4 or 5 items. It's like, oh, this will help me with 20% probability, and otherwise I'm just like down a lot of HP. It's always what's kind of sucks with items that drop and gives you like instant some bonus that is temporary. Like this would give you health, right? But it's because it's only usable if you know where it drops, so you can plan for it. So
I know you had a good answer prepared for this argument. This is why I asked it. Continue.
Good. The other items, I don't think we need to dwell on. I have just one thing. I heard like some people said that I don't get why you need to increase the tier 3, like the other red items, Django and Legion. Since that was my suggestion, I guess I just should do 5 words in it.
Yes, I hate it.
I don't
Convince me.
If you do the numbers, especially like the attack rate and like health region thing doesn't like the increase in what you get is so small.
Yeah, so that I totally agree with.
So it's more the fact that if you want to keep them as like red items that have usage, then the values are like very small. Like you can like just calculate everything like from the MS values to like the attack damage increase. It's actually very underwhelming, and you still have the brilliant story item there, which is still, I would say, even with its nerfed values, it's like substantially better. So I just think these items are currently very weak. But I don't disagree with, or people have right to disagree. I'm just like, people should calculate what this actually does, and you can see like the differences when you get to like 3% increases. It's very small, basically. But yeah. So the human changes. The Orbo's slow.
Yeah.
I mean, first of all, I think it's very cool that you try to find like a good orb that works with all matchups. I think when it was dispellable, I think it just were very niche cases it was useful, and quite often you would always prefer most of the time to have a sorceress instead. Cast the same spell, but it's guaranteed. You can, I mean, usually with human you have some more mana region, either by Archmage or by Siphon Mana, so you can like regen them sources if that's that desperately needed. So I think for any orb effect to have decent value, it needs to be undispellable. That's kind of what makes them strong.
So I think
you're first.
I think it wasn't on purpose that it was dispellable.
No, I think that's true as well. So like I think you wanted to test it without dispellable, and there's a big but here, I think. Now it's a weird item in the fact that when it procs on heroes now, it's either very strong or Giga Omega broken strong when it's doubled with slow and you don't dispel. Because then
and potentially clap.
Yeah, like the unit basically is like it has nothing in terms of movement speed, or I don't even want to like see how it's calculated. Does it actually go to 100%? Or is it like a share of a share? I need to calculate how they do it, because like if it say it stacks, it's 55%, it actually should stand still.
It walks backwards.
But like, yeah, so I guess it should be, or is it like 55%? It's additive, okay, Cariffian. Then there's a lower bound, okay. But then you get to a very low level at some point. But it's weirdly designed now, and the way the values they have is that when it procs, it's like extremely strong, and if you don't have dispel, it's brokenly strong for sure. 5 seconds is a long time for having that much slow without any like counterplay. But it's 10% chance on heroes.
Yeah.
So like I just did like an Archmage. How many seconds on average like would you expect to be guaranteed like one hit with an Archmage, right? Like how many seconds does pass in the game? It needs to pass almost 16 seconds with the hero never going from like targeting that hero like non-stop for each time it's meant to proc, right? So the value is so small that like when it procs, it's super strong. But how often will that actually happen in practice? It's weird at the moment, like the way it is. I can't remember all the proc levels on different orbs in my head, but all of them are quite a bit higher than 10%.
Well,
sure.
I can tell you that Orb of Corruption is 100%. Orb of Venom is 100%.
Venom is 100%.
I think Orb of Lightning is 30.
Yeah, so then you have 30 then basically, right? So you have 30 versus 10%, and you would usually expect. Well, there's not always, but quite often you would expect Orc heroes to have more higher attack speed because you either have it on Blade Master or a Shadow Hunter usually. So yeah, you have this like weird dichotomy that like when it procs is going to be super strong, it should not stack. I just don't. But I think why it's like also this weird thing when it doesn't stack, but it has a shorter duration. How does like the whole, but it's not dispellable. What do you do if you cast Sorcerer slow and then the new slow? Does then it change like does it become like a new count? Does it replace it? It's probably pretty complicated to code properly, would be my guess. So it's better to just like say it's just additive. It's probably easier, but who knows? But the rate of like the basically the proc rate is so low, so it's like you get this. I feel like the item is in a very weird spot how it's stated now. It's gonna be when that hits the Demon Hunter, 10%. Very rare, but when it hits, it's 5% guaranteed slow. If you're lucky, then with the next proc within 5 seconds, it's perma slow basically for 10 seconds, and then like etc.
True.
But then again, 10%, and you move your Archmage, you move your MK, whatever it's heroes on quite often. So yeah, it's super. Yeah, maybe it's just the whole slow thing is very hard to like find good values for because it needs to be undispellable to make it work, but then it also needs to have very low values for not to be like completely broken, right? So I find it difficult to come up with like the perfect values. Maybe it needs to be even. I think it proc rates needs to be higher, but then it also then probably needs to have even shorter duration on heroes. Sure. Would be my guess.
Yep, this kind of reminds me of the pickaxe disaster with a new layer.
Yeah. But I mean, there will be a situation with this orb, how is the like if these values are in, which does not happen that often, but when like it's going to look extremely broken. A hero is trying to run away, gets procced by this, then gets a slow hit in it, and the unit basically stands still without having and the 50. It's going to have 50% less attack speed. I don't know what the lower bound is on movement speed. Can maybe quote it, but let's say.
Skim says
okay, 150. I mean, you have twice the speed with normal units then, so you can basically like surround everything. Yeah, it's just it's very risky how it is now, I think.
I think we have to test that it doesn't have the same application as the Orb of Venom, so if you have 3 orbs, you can trigger it 3 times.
That's also true. It stacks, yeah.
Yeah, it would be really bad if this does stack. But yeah, this is gonna be interesting.
Yeah, I still think this needs a lot of work before we're sure. I mean, and if it's released live at like anything to this rate, it needs to be like one of the things that are like on a hot fix list. If it like turns out it doesn't work.
Skim and Cariffian say if it's 150, this also means a single slow already hits the movement speed minimum cap.
Yeah, because it's 55. Yeah, maybe not with boots. I have to I don't know the math in my head. I'm too slow. But I think like with boots, DH has 290, 300 something, right? Plus 50, 370, 50%. Yeah, I don't think it hits without the double if it has boots of speed. But otherwise, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, but yeah, this orb still needs work, I think, for sure. I don't think it should stack with the slow stack from the sorcerers though. Just in general, that feels weird to me. But because even when you proc the Blade Master and you hit Purge, like it doesn't double the effect, right? But here it actually doubles the effect, so it's kind of weird to me, like just intuitively. Shouldn't be like that. But yeah, Flame Strike mana cost, I think is fine. I mean, there is like an argument that if you're going to make Blood Mage weaker as a support, you also need to like maybe make him more useful as a damage dealer. I'm not sure the mana cost is the biggest issue on like why people still don't skill Flame Strike though. It's probably more to do with damage, the fact that it's delayed, it's a bit wonky to use. Yeah, it's stuff like that, but I don't think it's a bad thing. Like, of course yeah, I mean, if you have Siphon Flame Strike, you always have mana anyways, I feel like, but yeah. It's not a bad change, I don't mind it. It's good for AKM. Korea man. Because he only uses this spell. The area effect Siphon Mana. I think it was good that they removed the engagement rage for Siphon Mana. It was like too many nerfs at the same time now. So I think it was good they removed. And I think that initial range for engaging is the most like severe one. I think it's good that they removed that. It's enough to do like 2 nerfs already. I do like Fortitude said it in his video, which I kind of agree with. Like I understand, it's actually a good argument. The fact that like the Blood Mage then have to step like within attack range to even start doing the spell, right? And he's not very tanky, and his only usage when you do like the banish Siphon build is to be a support hero. So it's maybe a bit too much at the same time. It's also going to be very difficult when you do 3 nerfs to know like which nerf hit the hardest. So I think that's good. The air effect for the actual like leash, I think is also good. I think it's too long currently. I think most people agree on that. Probably doesn't matter as much as people might think because it's melee heroes that suffer the most from like the Siphon Banish kind of combination, and they have to get close anyways. But it is like useful those times you feel like you want to mark away from it, that it doesn't like reach across the map. So fine. Banish cooldown. This is either gonna be very substantial or actually not matter that much as people think. I'm kind of like, I'm not sure myself, because 4 seconds sounds like a huge change, right? I mean, it is a huge change because you go from 0 to a lot more than 0 in that sense. But if you watch like some of the fight Simpsons with Starbuck Goliath the other day, right, those games, it's not that often you actually banish more than like at least every 3rd second maybe, right? Like, because it's still you hit the spell, then the elf usually, you kind of don't want to disbanish like 3 things at the same time because you want to have some mana usage, you want to have Siphon going on. So you do like 1 banish, the elf maybe uses like 2-3 seconds to dispel it. Then so it's like it's gonna roll over pretty fast with 4 again. But it might be also make him a lot weaker. It's kind of hard to know, I think. It needs to be tested. But I do think it's fair that it has a cooldown. It's kind of weird with spells that don't have a cooldown, just in principle.
I feel if the player knows that there is a cooldown, you have to play more careful in general, even if it's just in the back of your head, because it could not be available when you really need it. So yeah, I think that's universally good.
You also avoid those like things where maybe like banish 4 units like in 3 seconds, right?
Yeah.
Which is cool, but it's also a bit niche. It's cool that it works at level 2 or 3, right? Like or 3, because then you skilled a lot of points into banish, but otherwise it's kind of it's strong, I think.
Yeah, this is the Oprah Blood Mage at the moment, and we don't want that. I saw it today. Poor focus. It was his own fault, but yeah, it's good that it's gone.
Yeah. The Holy Light cooldown increase. Sure, I don't think Holy Light was that bad with 6 seconds either, but we can try half seconds. Like you can, I guess, like it's in one sense, it's like the conservative and safe approach. You do like the small steps and see if that's enough, and then you can do a larger one. But I mean, Paladin Rifle is still very strong against Orc mainly, probably. I mean, I think Undead's, especially Happy, has figured it out now. If not, the Paladin Rifle comes up with like a new solution. So, but Orcs obviously suffer from it. They haven't picked up the new meta from the Europeans, but from what like I talked to Tessiog and stuff, people about it, it's not like you'd think they found like the perfect counter. They just found a better way to play against it than those like hopeless Raider runs. So, yeah, I think it's fair that it's like slightly nerfed, but if it should be 5.5 or 6, it's like it's impossible to tell, I think. Yeah. Like, who knows?
It will add up over time. It's of course also a nerf of human versus undead.
Yeah. The Militia Armor, people are like, I think that's totally fair. Militia have gotten 20 more HP in not that long of a time in the Warcraft timeline sense. It's a long time in real time, but you know, Warcraft is a long old game with a lot of times between big changes. But they never got like any reduction to their power as militia. While the HP buff was mostly meant to buff their like survivability for peons and peasants. I mean, as peasants. I think this is like a fine change. I think it's actually pretty helpful for the game. Militia are a bit too strong now in how much they can creep on their own, etc. And they still can. I think you could test, and they can probably creep all the same camps, but you need to micro them quite a bit more without losing one or two. So I don't think it's like game breaking or like that big, but it helps a bit. It makes them a bit weaker also in like pulling fights against other races, which is fair. It's a quote unquote kind of a free unit, right? In some cases. So yeah, defend. They now did like this thing. I think that's fair as well, because you reduced the cost quite a bit, and with reduced research time, it felt like most humans either agreed or were like up 50-50 was a buff or nerf. I don't think defend necessarily needs a buff in like its strength. It just needs. I think this is a good tweak. You make it slightly weaker. It's still a very strong ability when you like calculate how much damage is reduced in total. It's still over 50% because of the deflection chance as well. But now it's a bit more easy, possible to get to. So it's like a little bit less binary than it used to be, where you get it and it's like omega powerful against everything that's ranged. But now at least it's a bit like it's not that strong in how strong it is, but it's also a bit more viable to get without feeling that you like use 2 footmen and a lot of cost to get there. And maybe you get more now defend before tech, which is also like a thing, right? Like the big decision. But still think this is a good like change overall. I don't think defend needed like a full nerf without any compensation to how easy it is to get, because then it might just become one of the like many forgotten upgrades at some point. Soul duration, don't need to go through that again. I think it's fine. It's still more than enough for a battle, but you don't get stuck when slow for like the 2 minutes after the fight. Or the 50 seconds after the fight, maybe, if it's a shorter, like a fight's fairly short. I think there's probably a lot of spells if you look at it that could like use like duration reduction. Things don't need to last for 60-70 seconds. Like if it's meant to be in a fight. So fair. Heal range. I mean, humans don't get a lot of love in this patch, so I don't like think we can test this at least. I don't see like any value in removing it instantly and saying, "Oh no, this is gonna be horrible." I don't quite get the motivation for the change, but it does make priest slightly less clunky, and human gets touched a lot on like other stuff in negative direction, so fine. The flying machine movement speed is kind of weird to me. I think I get it. I just think they have gotten a lot of feedback from other players that flying machines are just like a one-stop shop for every anti-air like counter ever. I'm not sure this is the way to target them though. But like they still can overpower any air unit when you're enough of them and you get close and you have the upgrades needed. But this just makes, I don't know, just kind of makes those like micro interactions a bit more wonky. It's not like necessarily a huge change. This is one of the changes I kind of like can't calculate everything if this matters or not. There's still gonna be the preferred anti-air unit for human, right? Like in any more or less any situation, because you get flak cannons at tier 2, and that upgrade is so strong. Like if you ever wanted to like make a proper, especially if it's like a timing thing for how strong anti-air for human could be, it's looking at like removing it back to tier 3. That is also a very big change though. But
what about their interactions with frostworms now?
Because they move slower towards them?
Because frostworms have area of effect against.
Oh yeah. Now they have
375,
75. Yeah, they get within the range when they start attacking. Yeah, that's interesting actually, and they have magic damage, which.
Yeah, I know the AOE isn't that big of a frostworm, but if you hit that thing
you notice it when you have flying machines, yeah, because they clump up so
exactly heavily. They are like this little thing, and then a frostworm attacks it, and then it's like still 30 damage, right? Even if you're out of the inner circle, this could be rough.
Yeah, maybe. I actually the one change I didn't notice was the area effect increase on frostworms.
But then on the other side, you have for that specific purpose, you have Dragonhawks, right? So
yeah, then I guess Dragonhawks are pretty weak against Fiends. Like you have this like whole interaction, but yeah,
that's cool.
I do get why people find flying machines like as very strong as an anti-air counter, and just like, oh, humans just have this like unit they can click and it just counters everything. I'm still not sure I agree with them being like a balance issue. Anyways, like it wasn't very high on my list, at least for like things I find worrying. So, and yeah, that interaction with especially with the frostworms is interesting. I also wonder a bit like how this flying machines now also becomes. It's like this weird thing with Elf, because Elf now can use a hippo even more effectively to shield fairy dragons, chimps, etc. Right? So, I don't like this change. I have to test it before like I say that I can like unequivocally say that it's super bad, but I don't get the motivation, to be honest. But who knows? Compared to at least I understand the logic of gargoyles, right? If you feel like they're too oppressive, you kind of want to go a bit away from like mass air meta. Then you kind of want to make those units that are pretty good at attacking ground a bit slower. That can be masked. But I mean, flying machines against ground are pretty darn horrible. So yeah, it's a bit of a nonsensical change to me, but we'll see. They seem pretty insistent on it, I guess. Orc. Yeah. Mirror image change. I still think this is like, if you actually think mirror image is too strong, then I don't think this changes. This is like a huge nothing burger of a change. It needs to be more cooldown for it to matter, but everything helps, I guess. Great whole build time reduction. Yeah, it's interesting. Like even the orc spokesperson at the moment, at least the one most vocal, Grubby, I guess, because I mean there's not that many orcs that say that much in videos, etc. Said that like this might be unneeded or too strong. But 5 seconds is still 5 seconds. It's not super impactful, I think. But I'm not quite sure where the motivation is from, because they buff other stuff as well. Like, do you want to? I feel like you either do like this, we want to make expos more faster to just give orc more power, and then we don't do as many like other unit changes, or you do 1 or 2. But it's 5 seconds. Maybe it doesn't matter that much. It's like a nerf to human though. Tier 2 orc usually goes tier 2 counter expos. It's like a pretty big buff in that direction. Yeah, kind of hard to know like all the intro, but it's 5. Yeah, it's like it's going to be niche cases where things not get cancelled, but they used to get cancelled. But it's I really wish there was like a sentence behind here that said like why. I would like to know that. But sure, not the biggest change for sure. Win rate level still scary, I think, but it's also there's not. Yeah, these changes are all over the place. In my opinion. Because obviously the level changers that we don't think winners are strong enough to ever be considered a level 4 unit would be like how you interpret this, right? There's too much experience for how good the unit is.
Mm-hmm.
Then you make the unit even worse, in a sense, with the 2 other changes, but very slightly and in weird ways. And Verdant Spears is fine. It's still it's still not that impactful as people think, because you stack damage like insanely a lot. So I don't. It's a good thing, I think, because there's damage in like tick when you like look at 10 Wind Riders for 4 damage per Wind Rider for 25 seconds. It's just like an insane amount of damage. But so it's still going to be a lot of bonus damage for this. It's fine. But the movement speed. Do you get this, Neo? Can I just ask?
Of course, no, I do not. I think it's like. Yeah, we might realize that when we reduce movement speed of gargoyles, there is a problem with...
And flying machines.
There's an issue with orc air versus undead air. So we tackle that, but then... I don't think that does anything, because they get blown up by bats first and foremost, and wyvern aren't that big of an issue in movement speed. But yeah, I do not get this.
Makes them weaker against... You don't mass them, but do you know that like 50 food perfect orc army against elf like that one timing, which is quite often seen against elf expos, makes it weaker against them, I guess, slightly. It's still 10 MS, it's not huge, but it's We actually saw that with like Paladin and other heroes. 10 MS is not huge, but it also matters. Movement speed is probably one of the more like, scary abilities to touch. But again, yeah, the whole Windrider changes here feel. This is where one of the things I still feel like it's don't mean to be mean here, but like it's not a coherent team doing this, right? It's not like a fully thought out what is the sum of this. If you actually want to make them like reduced level because you don't think they're good enough at their level, then maybe you need like a rework them to make more of them into that level they were, or do you need to more like a bigger rework to make them a level 3 unit, quote unquote, air quotes. And if they still turn out to be strong against undead, this changes very scary, right? So yeah, I heard people say different things about this. Some people say that, well, the trades are actually not that occurring before like two big armies clash, so maybe it's like not that important as people think. But I'm a bit skeptical. I think it actually matters quite a bit, but who knows? Yeah, and it doesn't solve it still doesn't solve the Windrider's like fundamental issue against other races than undead, right? Like, of course, it doesn't help that you lose 4 Windriders and our human heroes get 3 levels. But it doesn't solve like why they're not that good against human overall. And actually makes them quite a bit weaker. Like, not quite a bit, a tiny bit weaker, because they're struggling to move away and get to harassment positions, etc. So, yeah, a bit of a weird change to the whole Windriders thing. The Sentry Ward Stasis Trap things. I think this can be tested now. I still worry a bit about the 25 HP on Stasis Wards if you can spam them forever, because it still means that like every sword needs to have like a fiend or so, like a pretty decent unit do like a full damage route on it. But try it. Like we need to test this at some point, right? If we're gonna do the whole, they have to have some usage. So try it. Another one of those changes: be ready to hotfix caps lock. I would say. Torrents. I'm still trying to like find out, are resistance skin torrents giga broken or not? In niche cases, I think they will be, but they're now very expensive. You still need to get to them. Still, to a certain extent, still get countered. I mean, I think the most impact will actually not be like slow and stuff, because you have usually like several sources to reapply slow. Maybe the impact will more be of Bolt, like those like stun spells, right? Because you reduce the duration, stuff like that. And clap probably. I don't know. The cost is increased. I do think it's fair. Like if you're giving the unit such a big upgrade, it probably needs to be a tiny bit more expensive. The one thing I was thinking of. Sorry, you first.
Good point by Tedster. How do you counter them as Orc? I very much fear reviving Tauren Orc Mirror.
Yeah, I agree. Actually, I think 2 of the biggest meta changes are probably most worrisome in Mirror, even more than other matchups. And think people kind of forget that mirrors are like 25% of your games. So it's gonna be pretty rough. Yeah, that's a good point, Tester. Like who can beat Torrents in Orc Mirror? And Orc Mirror was already one of the matchups, not on the pro level, but not that below that. You could kind of easily get to Torrents compared to other matchups, I would say. So yeah, it's I still think it's a worrying change that needs a lot of testing, and I don't think we should like accept that one mirror matchup gets if that's true, that it gets completely broken just because we want to have something fun in other matchups, right? I don't think that will survive. People will start leaving each other in mirrors and stuff. It's not good. So yeah, good point, Tedster. That's actually a very good point. I agree.
The one time
maybe they need a resistance skin and some exception to still get eaten by Code of Beast or something to at least get them some way out. But that very niche and weird. But maybe you need to do something just to make it work if you want to do that. Elf, a lot of changes from the PTRs now. Orb of Venom, it's a very strong orb. Does it need a damage check reduction now? No, not necessarily, but is it a very strong orb still? I think so. I don't think it like very big, meaningfully reduces that notion that it's still like a strong orb and still super strong in the stacking when you stack it. Keeper of the Grove, I think it's good to get some love. I don't think Keeper is especially strong now. I think targeting his strength and survivability is better than targeting his ability to spam spells, because that was always like, then it becomes like a tier 1 cannon. Treants are by stats pretty bad summons, so I think it's fine to get a tiny bit more damage. I get to another point in like this whole thing though in one matchup, which is like the sum just becomes insane. Wisp Lumber Gather Rate. You could at least not do anything with the gather rate for the wisps with other wood buffs. So I think it's very good that remove the other wood buffs.
Thoughts on gather rate in general?
Yeah. It's still like it's gonna take a long time, I think, before we can ever fully realize or know what this actually changed and everything. For like we've seen some like games in the PTR now that looks like they have a lot of lumber, but they also do like lumber cheap builds, so it doesn't give you that much info. It's still, I mean, if you said to every person at the end of the game you would have 12 or 14, actually it's the difference, 14% more wood. It's a huge change. Neo said he's gonna leave, but he listens to me, so I'm gonna solo here for a while. I can go crazy now. But yeah, it's still like a huge change. I still worry about this. I do get like the motivation behind it. You could try to do 7.5 seconds if it's too strong, or you could even do the PTR and you'd rather go down to 7 again if it's not enough. What other things do I need to do here before Neo comes up? Do you have any comments, chat, before I talk with my buddy again? Just gonna read. Yeah, nothing that huge. Okay, Neo's listening, so I can do my whole Huntress spiel. I still think this will be very, very strong in a lot of situations. Maybe like it removes some of the most like insane broken timings against against like, for instance, Human Expo. Like you can maybe that like slightly removes the power spike, so it's more doable, like stuff like that. Who knows? It's kind of hard to know, but it doesn't conceptually change some things about Huntresses being able to get heavy armor in general, and especially on tier 2. I would say by far, I would say the two matchups, maybe that's even worse than Human, is Orc and Undead, and maybe Orc the most. Okay, so this is the way I'm looking at Orc Night Elf now. You have stronger Keeper, so it like speeds up your tier 1. You're less worried of not having enough lumber, even if you are able to cancel Tree of Life or something, right? You get Ultravision faster. That doesn't matter as much, but it's like still a slightly thing. You have two different like tier 1 into tier 3 builds for you for Night Elf against Orc historically. You have the mass tier 1, and sometimes like the Night Elf was wondering if they're gonna go tier 3 or not to get marksmanship. So in that sense, this just makes that build overall a lot more strong. It's gonna be interesting. Can orcs go more into shamans and spirit walkers to then counter instead of headhunters and serpent wards? Serpent wards and headhunters do a lot more damage than shamans. Spirit walkers do a tiny bit more damage than them, but still it's kind of hard to see them replacing that damage term. So I still worry a lot about this against Orc. I theory crafting like stuff like, do you go Huntress Talons against Undead? I was disappointed that Neutron didn't try that instead of Fairy Dragons. I think that sounds like a super strong army against Undead. I don't think the 10 MS movement speed matters at all. It's still the fastest unit. Now it can get catched by a knight that never can hit it. It can just run slightly faster next to it. So like this is not like that's not a nerf that matters. This kind of tells me, again, I'm not trying to be mean, that they kind of don't know how the game works. Like in certain aspects, right? Like you say like we have this sum of numbers and it needs to add up to like something, and we just like change this number, now the sum is different, so that's like a good equation. I don't think it works like that. I still think Huntress to heavy on tier 2 will, as with their current stats, would just be fundamentally broken in a lot of situations. And I think the worst situation, like the most And maybe it's going to be Orc or Undead's going to be the worst. Maybe even Human, who knows. But by far the worst situation is going to be Night Elf Mirror. Night Elf Mirror will be a nightmare if all these changes go through, I think.
Just go Chimeras.
Yeah, you need to survive into Chimeras against Warpole Blades with 10 more damage, though. Which, I mean, Warpole Blades are a meme unit. I'm not saying they're strong. But that Foggy push, right?
Yeah.
He just has to get to tier 2 now, but it does the Foggy, it does that push at tier 2 with heavy armor huntresses, with Warpole, with like glaive throwers. Yeah. Still think you're going to struggle to get enough bears and stuff in time, and even bears don't. Yeah, I know. I just worry about this change still. I don't think this like changes. I think it's good that you like try to switch values so it's at least more of an investment. But the upgrade cost is probably not that important for this kind of thing, because if you do this strat, you're going to be pretty invested into a lot of huntresses. Huntress builds are not like that, especially wood costly, right? So you saw that with Neutronic yesterday. You had like 1,000 wood at tier 2 tech. So yeah. So I still think this is super going to be super risky. If they really want to try it, then try it. But I just think at least 2 or 3 matchups going to struggle with this for quite a while or eternity. And I think there's some Night Elf players that like Huntress Mirror, but I don't think nobody wants to be forced into playing it every game. So yeah, bit of a worry there. I think the Chimera movement speed is fine to 270. Yeah, why not? Frostworms are 270, right? So it makes kind of sense. I still think the issue for Chimeras is just that the Chimera Roost takes 70 or 80 seconds to build. So it's still like a very slow tech shift. If you want to make them more available, maybe they're also too costly to get just like the buildings, etc. But then if they also get like some wood buff, then that's not an issue. But I just think if you want to make them more useful, it's probably you need to add something with the building time for them. But yeah. And you can like, so I kind of agree with Sivorkas that if you really, this is like if you want to do proper reworks for units, we really struggle to find a good niche for. I think you need to look a bit beyond like the parameters we set for every like thing. Like, okay, so the solution is not like make huntresses like bears, but just at tier 2, but without rejuvenation, right? You can try to tweak stuff a bit more. So if you want to keep it at heavy, at least then say that you get heavy, but you get less armor when you do it, right? So you reduce the actual armor impact somewhat. But then again, that just annoys me as like a pedant, being like very picky, because you upgrade an armor type to heavy and you lose armor. just feels very weird to me.
Yep.
But yeah, you can
especially.
Yeah. So like the whole thing is kind of weird, but I just think this needs. I actually really want to see like an elf have more like tier 1, like having an option between archers and hunters is a tier 1 more, so like more as a viable option. But I still don't think this is kind of cracked the code, and I think maybe if we want to do same with Torrents, maybe we can try to be even more like adventurous and not work that limited within like the parameters set already. Maybe makes it easier for everyone involved, and then maybe as his like Sevorka suggested, some sort of like a Loon's Grace kind of upgrade at tier 2 that gives the exact percentage increases to make them good but not unbeatable, right? Yeah, doesn't need to be that, but you like fine-tune the values for the upgrade somewhat, not just like a blanket change that then messes up everything else. Undead, one of negation increase from 2 to 4, the single target dispel. I'm still like, I do agree with the thing you said earlier that like you don't have any counterplay to items compared to dispel units.
That wasn't my point. It was a Reddit thread.
Okay, good Reddit thread then.
Yeah. But I liked it, so I brought it up.
yeah, it's a good point. Then, so I'm kind of like on a fence about this. I think maybe increasing from 2 to 4 is basically the same as making the gold cost half, right? It's like another way to look at it.
Depends on like recharging.
Yeah, like it's not AoE, etc.
Yeah.
This needs to be tested. It can be super strong. Depends on like how fast it's on that. Because like for instance against, people say like against pushes against undead, if they're going undead goes expo, I guess you mean, because you don't Fire Lord push into a 1-base undead, or Archmage push into like with 1 expo. Do undead have tier 2 at that point anyways? I'm not sure. So probably can be tested. I don't think it's maybe the most. That item is still a bit weird, but I do get the idea though, right? You want to actually give undead some dispel options at tier 2. So I'm not like fully against it. I just don't sure. I do wonder. I haven't tested the editor. Do they actually want to keep the healing increase, or they just forgot to underscore the line? You think?
I don't know. It wasn't mentioned above. I didn't test it though. I didn't look it up.
No, I have to test it after. I'm going to go with the. I thought that they're not going to increase the healing and buff it.
Yeah, I don't like that either.
No, I mean it doesn't deserve a buff. If you keep it at 2, like okay, the only thing that makes this item weaker or like different than Scroll of Region, which I think most people will say is a super strong item, is that you have a slightly lower AoE, and the fact that you kind of have to click, you have to sacrifice something, and that something also has like a bit of a wonky AoE. Like you can't always know how like big of the area effect is for it to heal. Though the good players have used items so much now that I don't think that's an issue anymore. It has advantages as well compared to Scroll of Region. It can deny things. You have 2 charges instantly, and undeads just by their build orders always have shops earlier. That's just how it is. It's not wrong, but just how it works. The idea to nerfing it from like in this way was to make it more. It's like it was meant as like a double change, right? And the idea to give it more healing than sacrifice your charges was that it actually then gives even more advantage for counterplaying. So if you then hit the ghoul or death knight that gets the healing on, you stop at 200 healing instead of a 175 healing. And now how it currently feels is that it just enables that undead early DK level 3 creeping a bit too much, and it allows a very like high degree of cycling of ghouls without the opponent feeling that you have like a lot of counterplay. Would be my like the argument for it. And why also the feedback, Seawork has said, the feedback we got from players on this change was pretty universally positive, probably with the exception of certain undeads, which I think is fair because I mean it's a nerf, so nobody will love it. I think that's fair. But the fact that like you got something back, but we reduce like something with how strong it is and how like unhonorable quote unquote it is. I just think it was an elegant change. I really am a bit disappointed I removed it. I wonder who complained that like felt it was too much of a change.
Yeah, I mean, I said this to Save Orcas, I don't know if you heard it, but I think the quantity of nerfs for undead was quite big in PTR 2. So that was my talking point, at least, in my feedback video thing. And then maybe they released it to like scratch one nerf off the table.
Yeah. It might be.
And yeah, but now we have like stuff like Frostworm buff, which then like changes the equation again.
I mean, and also I would say like I don't know. We talked about this earlier, but like a lot of times, but you shouldn't count buffs and nerfs, right? It doesn't matter.
Yes. I hate that so much.
And I would even say that this change is not a straight nerf. It's like a yellowish change because the healing increase actually matters. 25 more HP. It's not insignificant in the early game for a ghoul that doesn't have a lot of HP. So yeah.
Someone said, I don't know, on the Discord somewhere, they're changing Wisp lumber gathering rate so they don't have to give 6 buffs to Night Elf where every building gets their lumber reduced. I thought, yeah, that might be pretty true actually.
I mean, it works for the same, right? Like or it's a bigger buff than reducing wood cost for every unit probably and building.
But it was just about the quantity. I found that funny.
Yeah, I agree. But yeah, they really should not at least buff it unilaterally. That's bad. It's a strong item.
Yep.
Don't make it the strongest AoE healing early tier 1 for a healer race that has regen usually quite often, quite early, have blight, etc., etc. No.
And I said this also, but since it's a new conversation, it is of course a buff to ghouls, which are already very strong.
Yeah, I agree. And just makes it even worse for orc to ever go ground against undead. I think undead. Well, I'm just saying happy undeads. It's not true. It's like happy fortitude are above everyone else. I think at the moment. Don't get mad at me, bros out there in the universe. But I mean, except fortitude, happy has solved humans. I think mostly. Sock still like put up a good fight, but Sock also did like pretty. I think he surprised Happy a bit on 2 of the maps. That's fine. But I don't see the need for like buffing undead early in general at the moment for like any matchup. Frost Nova range reduction, still think it's fine. I think Frost Nova is a very strong spell. It's the only issue is that the interactions become quite like large now, right? You have slower gargoyles, you have you have weaker but less experienced wind riders, etc., etc. It becomes like a bit of a mess to keep track of everything, but I do think Frost Nova was like a bit too strong for the range and the insta hit, basically. And I think in most, still will be, this won't change the majority of interactions with Frost Nova, which is, I think, is also important. It's what Echo Goodman said when he played the other game, right? Like, you don't notice it that often, because you kind of always want to be attacking with Lich anyways, right? So it's usually not that far away from the fight, but yeah, you get to reduce some of those like insanely long snipes without any possibility to react because of the insta hit, which I think is fine. Karen's Storm damage increase. It's like, feels weird to argue that much about 10 damage or not. I don't... Is Karen's Storm weak the problem for the real Dreadlord? That's like the only thing I don't get. Like, isn't the Dreadlord just bad because... Or, he's not bad. That's one thing. Undead has very good heroes. He's the worst undead hero, right? Which is a pretty important point to have. Like, it's the quote unquote the worst orc hero, or the worst human hero. It's only Night Elf that can do that. I have the worst hero argument. I think all other races have strong hero lineup. But I don't think this changes like Dreadlord's utility in the early game, or like how hard he is to use as a first hero, because he has same as the still weaknesses. It just makes him even more obnoxious or super strong when he becomes super strong. But not really, because he's only level 3. I just think this change is weird. But okay, if it's really important, then keep it. I just think if you want to target Dreadlord as like a first hero, then give him some more mana in the early game or something. But do you really need to make every undead hero an opening hero, or is it fine that 3 of them are more generally useful than 4? I'm not sure. Like, not a high priority change for me, at least. Nerubian Tower, don't see the point. The change is so small, and also the tower is still super strong. If you want to make it stronger against human, Expo cancel attempts specifically, which I think this is probably the only reason this is like a talking point at all. Make the magic damage so it hurts human things harder. Don't reduce the cooldown. Just makes it even easier to slow more things, but just doesn't do any breakpoint changes. Just feels weird, this change. It's a number change. The kind of change I always get criticized for. Like, it doesn't do anything. It's just changing the numbers a tiny bit without any good reason for it. For research, good. Gargoyle movement, weird. I don't get it. Still don't get it. I don't think I will ever get it. They were only kind of usable, I would say, like as a mass unit and against Night Elf, and became maybe a bit like strong in certain situations where undead could mass expo or get expo and mass gargoyles and get like this unbeatable army, which actually now might be even more unbeatable because of the Frostworm change. I didn't think of, but yeah. And just, I don't know, it just makes them weaker against Wind Riders, etc. Especially with the Frost Nova change. Yeah, don't get the argument for this. Triple mana change. I did like a like just top of my head feedback list on like what could they like change beyond like. I guess this is to make necromancers more viable. I don't think this by itself does anything. So I think necromancers are just from a cost and like ability perspective worse than their options. So make them cheaper, maybe give them more mana regen. Just find a if you want to buff them, even with cripple mana, just don't make them buff to the degree that you don't also nerf the like the race skeletons, because if they become super viable as a massing unit, then they're just going to be skeletons everywhere, and I don't think anybody likes necrovagons as like a meta strategy. It's back to like it's almost the same as swarm hosts in StarCraft 2, which was the most hated era of StarCraft 2 ever. So yeah. Yeah, disease cloud, spawn on abomination, death, no longer have a collision. What does it even mean?
I noticed this recently. I think it was a bug. I noticed this that some disease clouds were popping up on my overlay. So maybe disease cloud in a weird interaction was a unit. Okay, and then it had collision apparently. I never noticed this, but if it was a bug, hey, it's good, it's gone.
Yeah, it shouldn't. I don't think this should be stated like in a list full of balance and like that changes though. It should probably just be like bug fix is its own thing. Just confuses people, I think. But yeah, that's just a silly small point. The Frostmourne changes as the one change I didn't see before you mentioned it, Neo. I think this is actually pretty big, no?
I gut feeling think so. I am just remembered, like I'm reminded how big it was for the headhunters to get the range buff. I think it was a suggestion on Reddit actually. Maybe not exactly these values, but range for Worm is a huge issue because of their armor type as well. They take so much damage from piercing, and if you can stay a bit further away, that's huge for survivability. The damage is obviously no issue. To get there is possible, as we see versus Night Elf especially. Range is big.
Yeah, and the fact that like they get more range against air and more damage against clumped up air. And air will always have a tendency to clump up, right? And air is kind of the obvious counter to Frostworms. It's very hard to counter Frostworms against high-level undead heroes with like rifles or whatever kind of like ground-based counter. I guess headhunters, but even then, yeah, bats are different. Get difficult, I guess, because armor upgrades. But it's still, yeah, it makes them both stronger against what they're already strong against. I would say, like strong-ish, and then a lot stronger against what they used to be their natural counter. I think, yeah, I'm super interested in this. This might be broken. It's another of these changes that I know we only mostly focus on 1v1. I think this is another one of those changes that really mess up team and FFA modes. Just like, because that's the only place you see them masked already. So.
Yeah, but Undead is really weak in FFA, so maybe that's good.
True. Why does Sheik win all those FFAs then? I don't get it.
I mean, he's really
He's Sheik.
He's just Sheik, dude. He's the happy of FFA.
Yeah, but I would probably also flag this as like semi, maybe need to be fixed kind of. I don't know. This might be totally overacting too, but
this is so weird, right? Like, this comes out of nowhere in a PTR version where they say, "Oh yeah, we send it live. This is the last iteration. We send it live then and then." It's like, okay, dude. This is a big one though. Maybe.
Yeah.
Like, it's a bit risky right here. I don't know.
I also wonder about there's like did you know it wasn't that popular, but it was for like a while. It was like a thing, the Infi Orc strategy, like under the strategy we went Dreadlord into Frostworms against Orc. And you have Karen Storm stronger and Frostworms substantially stronger, right? Yeah. So who knows? But yeah, I think I'm a bit worried about this Frostworm change, but we'll see. Neutral changes I think is fine. Their level 1 Rain of Fire change might be more meta changing than people think, but we'll see. Because I mean, it actually makes that push more viable again. But I'm not super worried. But if like again, like this is of course like an obvious thing. If we can break a human expose every game, lol, then just reduce it, now increase it again. But I think it's fine. But overall, like you can just like say they are getting more and more interesting as PTRs, but there's still like more than one thing that might be game breaking.
Yeah.
And I do worry a bit about the matchups I would say I worry about is Orc Night Elf.
Yeah.
I would say Night Elf and Orc Mirror are both very scary for them. And I just think Elf in general with heavy hunts are just scary, like a tier 2. I still don't think this solves that issue. Yeah, so like good and bad. It's getting probably more interesting. I do think again, like the thing is like I still probably want to see, I would like in my dream scenario see more things that you could like add or remove. I mean, but the list is still too long for it to like it still needs to be whittled down, or at least not added a lot more, in my opinion. So I don't know to mention too many of that. The only thing I would actually, if I was one thing I'd mention, is the ghoul thing you mentioned. I think like you could still try to experiment. If you think Frenzy and you want to see more Orc ground, etc., maybe still tinker a bit with the Frenzy research timing would be the obvious thing, I think. Just to give everyone more time. Because I don't think you can do like nerfs to the unit itself with all the other stuff changing now.
Yeah, I feel like the problem is the spammability, like at every stage almost. And if you touch that though, oh, that's so rough. Like, what do you want to do? Do you want to touch gold? Then the entire early game is screwed. Do you want to do build time? That's the same, like because they are the lumber gatherers. That's the problem. Do you want to address the rotatability? Then how? Like, do you want to give them a special value how they regen on blight? That's also really odd. Like, ghouls are headache.
Yeah, they are. That whole thing is like difficult. The Orc undead matchup is the most, like, if you want to make Orc ground more like viable, is I think the most difficult one to solve for sure. But yeah, so
I mean, this direction is also it's kind of funny that we have to say this, but if you address ghouls, that helps Peli Rifle against undead, which might actually be necessary now.
Yeah, might actually be, yeah.
Like what universe is this that I'm an advocate pro Peli Rifle?
For the Peli Rifle,
yeah. But I mean, not only because Happy squashed Starbuck now a couple of times, but especially because of the nerfs for human in this patch.
Yeah, I agree. I still think like human undead is probably not like in a very bad position from these like sum of changes maybe, because I mean I think it's still like it's kind of hard to say before we see another 100 series 42 happier without Pal Rifle, right? Because I still think AM as like standard human play has a decent chance against undead for sure, but I mean we haven't seen solid evidence to the contrary, so yeah.
I am very honest here. I have zero clue anymore where the human versus undead matchup is. There's so many changes at the beginning, at the mid game, at the end game. No clue where this is going.
Yeah, I agree. And I just say so like from balance, I think just like from what I would say, like if there's any predictions I could make is that with like if everything was kept as here, I still think Elf would be very strong in a lot of situations. Maybe there's like some matchup specific things I'm lost on, but I think especially against Human Expo, Orc, I think Orc especially would be like the one really worried about. I think maybe the only like hope would be that casters are more efficient against Huntress heavy than I would think they are, but who knows? And I just think the mirrors for Orc and Night Elf would be horrible with this sum of changes. But also, yeah, I just think the hunts thing are still like the biggest worry thing that I see here.
To add to that, I worry about a bunch of hunters just clicking on bases because towers will also be less effective once they have heavy armor. We saw it. First Orc, you could do the same thing against tier 2 human. You can do the same thing to undeads because there is no magic tower really that does any damage. They don't attack burrows, so they will automatically attack the repair workers. This is gonna be so cancerous.
Yeah, I agree. So yeah, I mean, yeah, it's a lot of stuff still to like keep track of, but yeah, it's it's still like you still need to like do one reading, and then you kind of need to like sit with your own thoughts for a while. It's still the sum is still pretty big.
Yeah. All right, dude. It's been 13 hours for me streaming today.
Yeah, have a chill night.
Yeah, great. I think I'm going to skip DWCC tomorrow, man. This was a bit much now. But
get Sol on it. He'll fix it.
yeah, I think he is. But yeah, that was a cool day actually with B Cup finals and Warcraft III champion start and patch. Jesus. If you have thoughts, put them on the forums. Put them in the Reddit. It's not like you're not heard. Like we had these ideas. A lot of ideas, I think, from this version come from the Reddit. So if you have an opinion, put them out there. This will backfire for me because a lot of your opinion are shit. But anyway, it's good that the good opinions are read. And there's a lot of activity on the Reddit and also on the forums. And of course, that was a joke. You're the Back to Warcraft audience. You're very smart. You're not the bad opinion people. Thank you, Safe Orcas. Thank you, Dondo, for your time and your brains.
Cheers. Same to you. As nice as always.
Take care, everybody. See you tomorrow.